Select and go live. So I click the button that says select this live stream and go live. So I think I'm live. I'm not getting any errors at the moment. So welcome to this English Q&A live stream. Hopefully it actually starts working at a certain point. But yeah, I think it's working. You'll see a nice, beautiful view of a fall day here in Ontario, Canada. You'll see a little picture of me down here in the corner. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I'm just double checking a few things. Yesterday, when I started the live English lesson, there were a few little glitches, but so far so good on this one. Good morning to Mode Eggs and Know That. Good to see you, Know That. And good morning to everyone else who is here. Let me pin the question there. Know That has queued the question link to come up. So let me go to full screen. There we go. Now it's become a serious class because you can see the teacher in full. Anyways, good morning. I hope you're having a good day. I hope I'm not too chatty this morning. I'm in a pretty good mood. I had a good night's sleep after staying up late for a very disappointing baseball game. The Toronto Blue Jays lost last night, but all is not lost. It was only game 6, and now the series is tied 3-3, and there will be a game 7 tonight. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Toronto Blue Jays, a Major League Baseball team, is in the World Series, the biggest championship in baseball, and the series is tied 3-3. We'll see what happens tonight. Should be good. Other news to update before I get started. Well, let me do my little spiel first, and then I'll tell you about my X-ray. So, welcome to this live English lesson. If you have a question, there is a link in the description below. I think I put the link there. Let me double check. Yes, there's not a link in the description below. There will be a link in the description below in a moment. Give me 1 second to do that. This happens sometimes on the Saturday live streams because, I don't know, it's Saturday and I'm less in a work mode and more in a relaxing mode. So here we go. If you hit refresh, you will see that there is a link in the description below. You can use that to ask me a question about the English language. Please don't use the chat to ask questions. I don't look over there often enough, and I tend to get behind if I do it that way. So submit it with the link. I'll put it on the screen at some point. You should, however, use the chat for fun English conversations with each other. And then what else was I going to say? If you missed yesterday's lesson, we did do a lesson yesterday on handy machines. If you're interested, that lesson is coming out again tomorrow in a shorter version. I'll have to work on that later today. Let me do an audio check one more time. I see the questions starting to flow in, so I'm feeling like I need to get rolling, but there's only 4. That's not too bad, right? That's not too bad. So a few updates. Number 1, the Blue Jays lost. I already mentioned that. So I will be watching a baseball game again tonight. Number 2, yesterday I went for an X-ray. Where's my phone? I was going to show you my X-ray. Yesterday I went for an X-ray of my collarbone. As many of you know, I broke my collarbone. And it's been 5 months. It's not healed. No, that's a picture of ice cream. So here's a picture of some ice cream at the grocery store. I don't know why that is there. Let me find. Here is a picture of my clavicle. I just want to make sure there's no. So it's kind of hard to see. But here, if I can point out. This is where it broke. And that little gray area there, this area right here, is where it's starting to heal. Oh, my brother is messaging me. That's not supposed to pop up on the screen while I'm using my phone. Let me get that out of the way. Brother, go away. Stop messaging me while I'm trying to do a live stream. Let me get back to that. Here we go. So yes, it keeps popping up. Anyways, healing is starting to happen, but it's not as far along as the doctor was hoping to see. So it's not bad. It's not a bad situation. I'm just checking the live stream for a sec. Oh yeah, somewhat visible. So the healing is, it's been 5 months. They said it looks like it's been like 3 months. So the healing is going slower than normal, but I have been okayed to go to the gym as long as I don't lift anything heavier than 10 pounds. So that's not a lot of weight for me, but it is exciting that I'll be able to go to the gym and I'll be able to do some working out. I've actually been doing a little bit already before my appointment. So anyways, everything looks good. Healing is slower than normal, but they said it's far enough along that I can start doing some weights. Hey, you guys want to see the great outdoors, and you guys want me to start answering some questions probably. Freddie Wolf says, I just faked it. From the x-ray picture. Maybe that's it. Okay, here we go. First question is, I should have just put this up on the screen right away. From Know That. Hello, Bob. How was your x-ray appointment yesterday? What did your doctor say? I hope you got good news and everything is as it's supposed to be. Thanks, Bob. So everything's in the right spot. Everything is healing. It's just a little slower than what the doctor would have liked. But he said within a few more months, everything should be completely filled in and healed and ready to go. Oh, 10 pounds in kilograms. Yeah, it's, what is it? You double it and add 10%. So simply dividing by 2 is about right. Yes, that would work. So thanks for the question. Know that. From Hasham. What things, here, let me fix the question. What are things you don't like about Toronto? So Toronto is a wonderful city. There are many things I like about Toronto. I like to visit Toronto. I like to see the Toronto Blue Jays play there. What I don't like about Toronto is there are some parts of the city where it kind of smells a little bit. Is that fair? I don't like big cities because I'm used to living in the countryside. In the countryside, we have fresh air and it's peaceful and it's quiet. Whereas in the city, sometimes there's pollution or a lot of traffic or cars or just lots of people around. So I would say that is one thing I don't like about it. But 99% of my experiences in Toronto have been wonderful. So I wouldn't worry too much about whether you should visit there or not. Here, let me click this button over here so I get my data. There we go. From Renata. Hello, Bob. I hope you and Jen are in good health. Yes, we are. Sorry, there's too many things popping up on my screen. Do you think technology is changing the world for the better or for the worse? Thanks once again. Have a great day. Well, I was just at a teachers convention and I did hear a couple of talks about AI and technology. And they were cautionary tales, basically saying AI in particular is doing wonderful things in the field of scientific research, in the field of medicine. AI is a very good tool for helping doctors diagnose things or for analyzing huge sets of data. But also then they talked about how AI is also good at generating fake news and fake videos. So I think it's just going to depend on how people decide to use it. Judith from Hungary. Hi, Bob. What kind of strange laws does Canada have? I'm going to insert a word there. For example, an Asian country prohibits chewing gum. Thank you. I don't think we have any strange laws. I think they're pretty normal. I know sometimes they'll find an old law and then it will be in the news that there's this old law where, you can't drive your bike more than 40 kilometers an hour or something like that. But I think we have a few cats out there, don't we? Yes. But other than that, I can't think of any strange laws that we have in Canada. Edgar with an English question. Here we go. When we use the word either, what is the most appropriate way to use it? And could you give us some examples? So there's a variety of ways to use this word. If you said, I don't like cats, I could say, I don't like them either. That would be ending a sentence with either to indicate that I agree with you. By the way, sometimes I say either. I know you've probably watched videos on the correct pronunciation, but I live in a country with former historical ties to the UK, but also a neighbor of the United States. So there's words that I say two different ways. Another way to use it is to start a sentence. Either you get in the car or you stay home. Sometimes when our kids were little, we would have to give them ultimatums, like either you eat your supper or you'll sit there till it's done. We never actually said that, but I'm trying to think of something we would have said, like either you say sorry to your brother or we're going to take your toy away for an hour. Those would be other ways to say it. There's multiple ways to use that word. Like I don't like, no, then I would have to use neither. So I don't want to make a mistake there. Anyways, there's a couple of examples. There could be like a full English lesson just on that word. Okay, from Eunice, which one is correct? A teacher of, okay, so I don't want to read something that's incorrect. So the two correct ones would be an English teacher. He is an English teacher. She is an English teacher. I am an English teacher. That is the most correct and most common. If you wanted a more formal description, you might say that person is a teacher of the English language. So your first sentence was missing the, and you would rarely see that. You might see it in some kind of formal writing, like he spent 5 years in France as a teacher of the English language. But the most common thing to hear and say and read would be an English teacher. He is an English teacher. She is an English teacher. No, that says it irritates me that the leaves outside are moving, but the cats somehow aren't. Yes, that's because this is an AI generated image. No, it's not an AI generated image. The cats are waiting for Jen to come out because when Jen comes out, they know that they're going to be fed cat food. So they are calmly sitting. It's kind of freaky, but they're staring at the house, waiting for Jen to come out and give them their food. Next question. Here we go. We'll go full screen when we see Jen go outside. From Edgar, would it be right to write a sentence using before and earlier in the place of previously? Previously, he worked at the Ford Motor Company. Before this, he worked at the Ford Motor Company. Earlier in his career, he worked at the Ford Motor Company. So you're noticing when I use before and earlier, I do have to use other words as well. You know, previously, I'm trying to think. You almost have to do this in all of them. Like, what did he used to do? Well, previously, he was an auto mechanic. Before, he was an auto mechanic. Earlier, in his life, he was an auto mechanic. I feel like when I use earlier, I have to pad the sentence a little bit. Hey, thanks to Hockey for the super chat. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much for helping support this channel and by giving me a little bit. Maybe I'll use that to buy the cats some cat food. Wait, did the cats move? Where did they go? Did they disappear? Oh, there's one way over there by the tree right now. Yes, I'm glad the leaves are moving so that I can see that it's still working. So I think when you use before, you're always comparing it. Like before this live stream, I was eating breakfast, whereas I wouldn't use previously to say that. I would say earlier today, I was eating breakfast. I wouldn't use previously to say that. So Freddie in the chat says, by the way, I do look at member questions in the chat. Bob, are they special trees which will lose their leaves later in fall than others? So they're maple trees, and trees have sort of started losing their leaves here. These are close to the house, so there's a bit of a microclimate here. So I feel like they're always about a week behind the other trees in our yard. So yeah, they're just regular maple trees. And they will lose their leaves probably in a couple weeks or so. From Jesse, hello, Bob. Can I ask you a question? Yes, you may. Is hit the light right or wrong? And is it common in the US and Canada? Thanks, Bob. I've never heard that phrase before. So it must not be common here, or I am out of touch with phrases that are being used. Let's see here. Hit the light. Okay, I'm wrong here. I am totally wrong. I have heard that phrase and I have used it, but I use it with light as plural. So if I'm in a dark room, I could say to Jen, can you hit the lights? And that means please turn the lights on. If I'm in a room with the lights on and we're going to watch a movie, I could say, hey, could you hit the lights? And that means turn the lights off. So sorry, I got confused because there was no S on the word light. But yes, that is a common way to ask someone to either turn the lights on or turn the lights off. In my classroom, if I'm going to show a movie, I could say to a student, could you hit the lights? And then they would go and turn the lights off. When we're done watching the movie, I could say, hey, could you go hit the lights? And that would mean please turn the lights on. It simply means flipping the switch, which is actually something I might be working on today. A light switch. I have to fix a light switch. From Waz, hey Bob, what do you like to do on Christmas? Do you have a routine in that day? Do you like eggnog? So I used to like eggnog, but I don't anymore. I find eggnog to be very sweet. If you don't know what eggnog is, it's a drink made with eggs and milk and sugar. And it's very, very rich. It's rich and creamy and very sweet. So I don't enjoy it anymore. Our routine at Christmas is usually to spend time with family and to eat a lot of different, a lot of large meals. So we visit Jen's family. We visit my family, like my mom and brothers and sisters. We have Christmas with our own children where we have a meal as well. Let's see here from Minos Mill. Hi, Minos Mill. Hi, Mrs. Bob. I think you meant Mr. Bob. Hi, Mr. Bob. No question today. I'm here just to say that I'm alive and kicking and always watching your wonderful lessons. Good to know. Good to see you again, for sure. Hey, thanks to Osvaldo Santos for the super chat as well. Very kind of you. Thank you so much for helping support the channel. No, that says, oh, what did you have for breakfast, Bob? If I may ask, do you have a more extensive breakfast on weekends than during the week, or is it the same? So I had eggs with toast this morning, and I feel like, you know how there's a loaf of bread and then the bread ends? Sometimes people don't eat them. So we keep our bread in the freezer. And sometimes there's a lot of bags in the freezer where it's just 2 bread ends. By the way, this is not an English word, but we called the end of the bread a cuppie. I think it is a Dutch word that my parents taught me. It's not an English word. I think it comes from the Dutch word cupje or something like that. Normally, I think people just call it the bread ends. So in our freezer, there's usually 2 or 3 bread bags with just the bread ends. And then I toasted a couple and had them with eggs this morning. Let me see here. From Junji, as I watched the World Series, little fix, I found the lyrics of "Oh Canada" is different from what I know. Has that changed? Go Blue Jays, go Dodgers. A couple of the singers recently have either accidentally or intentionally changed some of the words. And also, I do think there was a new version that came out in the 1980s with slightly different lyrics. So it would depend on when you learned the lyrics. And yes, I think that if you check the news, you'll find news articles right now about singers who have slightly changed the lyrics as they sang the songs. Whoa, my question queue is getting really full. Should I speed up? I don't know. From Rachel, how to think in English 100% and not, I'm going to add a T there, and not translate in my head when I speak. I appreciate it. This is something that, okay, so the only thing I can describe is what happened to me as I was learning French. Obviously, I'm a native English speaker, so I think in English. As I was learning French, eventually I was able to begin to think in French. For me, this happened after lots of practice with conversation, a lot of listening, and a lot of reading, and a little bit of writing. I'm actually pretty weak on my writing. And for me, there was a moment where I was watching a French TV show, and I suddenly realized that I had been watching it for almost 10 minutes. And it was the same experience I would have had watching an English show. I wasn't translating in my head. What they were saying, I was just understanding. And then in my speaking, that started to happen a bit later. So I think it takes a lot of time. I think people are very eager to be able to think in English, but it does take a while and it does take a lot of practice. 2 things will really help. Lots of reading and listening and lots of conversation practice with an English tutor, both of those things. And if you're interested, there is a link below to Preply. I think that is a great place where you can find someone to help you learn English. Yeah, and it takes a different amount of time for everyone. And for me, it's actually challenging right now. Si je commence à parler français maintenant, c'est difficile à penser en français. So I haven't spoken French. I haven't taught French for a few months. So it's difficult for me to think in French, but it comes back pretty quick once I start. From Fazal. I'm from Pakistan. I am preparing myself for the IELTS test. I want to go to Canada. Please, any suggestions? Again, I know I go on and on about Preply. There is a link to Preply below. If you go to Preply, you can find a tutor who will help you get ready for that exact test. You can do a search and say, I'm taking the IELTS, and it will show you who can help you. It will cost money, but if your plan is to take that test and do well, I think that is probably the best way to go. Find someone who knows about the test and specializes in preparing people to take that test and do it well. And in the chat, we see student teacher saying, that's right, Bob. At first, I wanted to translate everything. Then I didn't do that because I could see that I understood more day by day. Yes, as you do it, you learn a bit more. It becomes a little more natural, we say. Renata, do you miss the days when you used to print out papers for your Friday live streams? A little bit. That was a fun era for me because I didn't realize how enjoyable teaching live was. So for those of you that don't know, this is, if you're watching this at 10:20 a.m. on November 1st, 2025, Eastern Standard Time, this is live. I'm here in my living room, my office, teaching a live English lesson. Oh, did it freeze? Nope, the leaves are still moving. So do I miss those days? Yes. Doing YouTube is still very exciting, but in the early days, when I did the first live stream where I had like 300 or 400 people watching, I think I was just super excited because it was so fun and enjoyable. Yeah, but for those of you that don't know, instead of slides, I used to hold up pieces of paper. If you go back far enough on my YouTube channel, you'll find that. Let's see. From Judith, why does this sound familiar? Have you read a book from David Baldacci? If yes, do you know the title? Thanks. That name sounds familiar. Baldacci books. No, I must have seen books by him, but I don't think I have read any. So no. And I think I'm saying the name right. Sometimes with names, you just have to guess. So I'm going to go with David Baldacci. I think that it looks kind of like an Italian name a little bit, maybe. So, but no, I have not read any books by that person. Unsel. Hi, Mr. Bob. Is there a particular book, song, or movie that changed how you see the world? Thanks. No, but I would say this. I traveled to South Africa in 2018, and that trip was eye-opening to me because before that, I had only seen Canada and the United States. I hadn't seen any other parts of the world, and I didn't know what it was like to live in other countries. When I visited South Africa, I saw a variety of things that were so different to what I was used to that it made me, it made me start to think that I'm a citizen of the world just as much as I'm a citizen of Canada. So a trip, not a song, movie, or book, but definitely a trip. So Renata, I'm a little bit confused about the time zone. Is it 10 a.m. for you right now? It is 10:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think you're 1 hour behind Brasilia time. So funny you should say that. Tonight, we will move our clocks back an hour. So at 10 o'clock tonight, before we go to bed, it will be 9 o'clock. So I don't know if that brings us back in line with Brazil. For some reason, I feel like that's the wrong way. But yeah, we get an extra hour of sleep tonight because we adjust our clocks for daylight savings time twice a year. Freddie says, I watched part of the Blue Jays game. Unfortunately, I realized that even if I watch it for a lifetime, I wouldn't understand much about the rules. Would you mind explaining a bit for beginners? So, not right now. I haven't been in contact with Brent for a few weeks, but Brent and originally, I was going to go visit Brent last summer, and we were going to do a live lesson on the sport of baseball. We were hoping to be able to go and maybe see a baseball game, but those plans did not come together for a variety of reasons. But maybe we can resurrect that plan at some point. If not, I can certainly do a lesson sometime about the sport of baseball. I think next Friday's lesson, though, I think I'm just looking at English one-line jokes, one-liners. I think I have 30 of them, and then I'm going to explain the joke. So hopefully that's a fun lesson. That's, I think, next Friday's lesson if I check my list. Alessandro. Oh, there's Walter. He's sitting out there. He's probably waiting as well to see when Jen comes outside. Could you explain to me how to use the present tenses in future time clauses? So this is an interesting one because you might be talking about the future, but then you might use the present tense. The best example would be when you say someone's going to say something. So I could say this. If I come to your party Friday, you're going to say, why did you wear that? So that's actually a past tense. So it would be like, if I come to your party Friday, you're going to say, why are you wearing that? So I'm placing the narrative in the future, and then I'm using the present tense because we're imagining we're in the future. This is a very complex thing to talk about, and I might not even be answering it the way you were expecting. But yes, sometimes, like last week, my mom came over and she said, I love pizza. So I'm using the past tense to describe something in the past, but when I quote what someone said, I use the present tense. And there's other ways to do it. I'm just using the narrative or the quote type. But oh, this is an easy one. Thanks. You're welcome. Gilberto. I don't know how to say it, but you're welcome. Let's see. From Fabian, hi, dear teacher Bob. I'm a teacher like you. Cool. And for me, the most difficult thing about being one is to prepare my classes. What about you? Thanks. So I think everyone has different things that they enjoy about their job. Walter enjoys rolling around on his back as part of his job as a dog. For me as a teacher, preparing for classes has always been relatively easy. So I'm different than you, but I do not enjoy grading student work. That is challenging for me. So I think everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So for me, a strength is probably because I've done it for so long. It's hard work, but it's fairly easy for me to prepare for a class. But the follow-up work is challenging. Let's see here. Mode says, I was just like that a couple weeks ago. I can follow the game completely right now. You can do it, Freddie. So Mode has learned the rules of baseball in a short period of time. Very cool. So Fabian, I'm not saying that I'm a better teacher than you. I think you're probably a better teacher than me. But I think when you look at things, people have their strengths and weaknesses. And I'm sure you have your strengths. You say it like Gilberto. What do you say in French? C'est pas la mer de boire. Okay. Let's see here. I should switch to members only chat mode in a moment. Let me have a sip of water. Why is my water so full? I have not been sipping water, apparently. Some say AI helps students learn more efficiently, while others think it weakens their ability to think independently. Where do you stand on that balance? Thanks. So it depends what the student is using the AI for. Let's say they're using the AI to write their essay for them and to do all of their work for them. They're obviously not learning anything. But let's say a student says to an AI, I'd like to have an English conversation with you. I want you to pretend that you're the security guard at the airport and I'm coming through with my luggage. That would be a very effective way to use AI. So it kind of depends. If a student is using AI to cheat, so that the AI does the work for the student. And then the student says to the teacher, this is my work. That's the student's not learning anything. But if the student is using the AI as a tutor to help them, like if you said to an AI, I want to learn the 10 most important rules about baseball, about Major League Baseball in North America, that would be a good way to learn about baseball. Okay, let me give you guys the outdoor view, and the cats are back. Let me switch to members only chat mode. This is a mode where members can ask questions directly in the chat, which they can usually do anyways, but I don't always catch all of them. So if you are a member, I'm going to keep answering questions from the queue because there are 20 of them. But if you are a member for the next 10 minutes, if you want to ask a question directly in the chat, go ahead and do that, and I will be happy to answer it. Ross, hello, Bob. Does ChatGPT answer all our questions correctly and use sentences like a native speaker would in real daily conversations? Thank you very much, Bob. So here's something interesting I've been noticing about ChatGPT. When I make my Friday lessons, I generally come up with 10 or 20 or all of the words or phrases myself. But if I feel like I need to add a few more and I can't think of any, I'll search the internet or ask ChatGPT. And sometimes ChatGPT gives weird answers that aren't actually phrases we use. So I wouldn't trust ChatGPT all the time. I think it's mostly correct, but especially with things like idioms or certain phrases, it will give suggestions that I'm like, nobody says that. So I'm not sure if that's going to change over time. I'm not sure if ChatGPT will get better. But I know the other day I was asking it for, I did the lesson on funny phrases, right? And I just wanted one or two more. And it gave me the phrase, I forget what it was. Yeah, it's not on here anymore. So anyways, it gave me a couple things and I'm like, no, I can't teach that. Nobody says that, at least not in my part of the world. From the chat, here we go. Fabian, thank you for your reply, but I am just starting my career as a teacher and you have been the best and most important teacher for me. You are welcome. Yes, when I started teaching, I found planning for my classes to be the most difficult thing. So you and I were very similar then. Know that, so speaking of Walter, you mentioned yesterday that you'd get a robot lawnmower if they were a bit more rugged. I think Walter would certainly enjoy them just as much as the automatic pet feeder. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but the dogs would probably chase it. That might be dangerous. We would need to train the dogs not to do that. From Sonia. Hey, Bob, do you follow, as a good Canadian, hockey matches? I don't. I watch baseball and I watch basketball, but I rarely watch hockey. I can play hockey. I understand hockey. I have gone to watch a hockey game in Toronto because I do like seeing live sports. But unless the Toronto Maple Leafs are in the playoffs, I don't regularly watch hockey games. Mode says, become a member so Bob can afford tickets to the World Series games. The prices are ridiculous. They're through the roof. They're off the charts. I think it's $10,000 for a seat close to the it's crazy. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't go. Know that. What are you up to today and tomorrow? Anything special planned, or is it going to be a more relaxed weekend at home? A heartfelt thank you, Bob, as always. So today, job number 1 after this, there's a light switch in the barn and it needs to be replaced. It looks like it's from the 50s. Like it looks like it's 60 years old. And the wires are frayed inside. And I noticed the other day it made a funny sound, like zzz, zzz, when I flip the switch. So I'm going to turn the power off, pull that out, put a new light switch in. That's job number 1. And other than that, nothing special. Fabian says, by the way, let's go Blue Jays. Yeah, so the whole phrase is, let's go Blue Jays, let's play ball. That's kind of what they say in the commercials. I'll get another question from the queue. We'll stay in members only mode for a bit. And Evnheli, welcome. as a member. Good to see a new member joining. That's awesome. Oh, I'm supposed to give away a free membership today, right? I like to do that with every live stream. So let me find that button. In a moment, somebody will get a free membership. Let's see if this works. Yes. For a moment there, I thought I just spent $200, but it was $2. So it is quite possible that you are in the chat and getting a free membership. If your name is Joy, you just got a free membership for 30 days. If you go to the community or post tab on this YouTube channel, you will see all of the member posts right there, ready to go. From Tina. Hello, Bob. Which one is correct and why? I think they're both. There are crayons in a pencil case. There are some crayons in a pencil case. Yeah, you can use both. Yeah, we don't worry too much about, I know in French, if you say de la pizza or la pizza, it has different meanings. In English, I don't think we care about that as much. There are leaves on the ground. There are some leaves on the ground. I didn't just change the topic. I'm giving examples. Oh, sorry, I should point this way. So in English, you can say, there are leaves on the ground, or there are some leaves on the ground, and both are correct. Absolutely no problem at all. So we have another gift membership from Pedro Hippo. Thank you very much. So someone, I can't pronounce your name, but the GOAT received a membership and Carrie received a membership. 5 memberships from Pedro Hippo. Thank you, Pedro, for supporting the channel in that way. And that's pretty exciting for people to get a free membership for 30 days. Again, go to the community tab or post tab on this YouTube channel. And if you just received a free membership from Pedro, you will see all of the members only posts and you'll have access for 30 days. Very, very cool. Let me scroll back here. Back to Minos Mill. In the past at school, our biggest problem was students' behavior. And now our problem is parents' behavior. What is it like in Canada? No comment. We have the same problem in Canada to a certain degree. A lot of parents are wonderful, but I would say we are starting to see more and more parents who I think, I don't want to say too much because this is live and I'm saying it publicly. I will just say, yes, things are different than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, if I did something wrong at school and the teacher said I did something wrong, my parents believed the teacher. And we are now in an era where that might be up for discussion sometimes. I think that's a fair way to say it. No, that says, speaking of yesterday, how was your Friday overall? What did you do? I mean, aside from your appointment and watching the Blue Jays game, thanks a lot, Bob. Surprisingly, so I did the live stream. My appointment was at 11:45. I did not get out of the doctor's office until 3 o'clock. It was actually after 3 o'clock. So I didn't really do anything else. I went home. I did buy chocolate bars on the way home because it's Halloween. So if kids stopped at our house for trick-or-treating, and then Jen and I went to work out. So we did go for a walk and to lift some weights. So, but yeah, not much. Let's see here. Got Pedro's memberships. Whoa, just a minute. Something else happened here. Okay, let me go back because I think Ismail just gave some memberships too. But no, that says, I recently came across the expression to blow one's own trumpet. Could you shed some light on its meaning and give some examples of its use? Thanks in advance. In Canada, we use the phrase to toot your own horn. And I would say to blow one's own trumpet is probably a British equivalent. But when you toot your own horn, it means you do something good. And instead of waiting for other people to say, that's good, you just tell everyone you did something good. So if I was to say, I make amazing English lessons on YouTube, I would be tooting my own horn. I like it when other people tell me that they liked my lessons, but I don't like to toot my own horn and tell other people that what I do is great. Ismail says, hi, Bob. All your clothes look great, but I haven't seen you wear your older clothes lately, especially your old white checker shirt with blue stripes. It was really nice. I'm waiting for, it's kind of hard to explain. I'll explain it more in a couple months and you'll know what's up. I'll leave it a mystery. Ismail, thank you so much for giving 10 memberships away. So Latux, Real Poaz, Akils, Buran, Amos, Tien, Alan, Anna, just a whole bunch of free memberships going out. Again, check the community tab and the post tab on this channel, and you will have access to all member content for 30 days. Very good. And Fabian says, that's a tough topic, including in my country. Yes, definitely a tough topic. We're going back to, I think, the question about are parents different? That's probably the question we're looking at. Okay, I'm losing track here. Freddie says, November 1st every year, we have a bank holiday in Europe called for All Saints, Toussaint. Is it the same in Canada? No, we do not have a day off. It's just a normal work day. Mode says it's, oh my, it's like a membership frenzy over here. Yes, many, many new members. Mr. Fisheri Hafiez says, don't forget to hit thumbs up, folks. With YouTube's new UI, it'll show an animation. For learning channels, it'll show a light bulb animation. Does it really? I didn't know that. Hey, there's a little light bulb, but it's behind my pointer, so I didn't quite see it. Let me do thumbs down and then thumbs up again. Oh, yes. Very cool. And hey, everyone. Yes, hi, Hafiez. Hey, I'm going to turn off members only chat. Thank you so much for being members. Let me find that button, customization, subscribers only. There we go. And we'll get back to answering questions. There are 22 remaining, and I have 20 minutes. Does that mean I have to answer one per minute? We'll see. Anyways, thank you for being members, all of you who are members. Members allow this channel to exist because I have a job where I go and teach every day, but it's only a part-time job, and I spend the rest of my day working on YouTube-related tasks. I like to put out a new English lesson every Tuesday, and that's always free. I like to put out a live stream every Friday, and that is free. I edit the live stream, and it comes out on Sunday, and that's free. But also members get a lesson plan on Monday. They get a free video on Wednesdays called Wednesdays with Bob, and a few other little perks along the way. So thank you. Very much for your support. Let me get a question on screen here. Let's see, is the outdoors still moving? Hey, we've done like 40 minutes of a live stream without it locking up. That's pretty good. I'll skip that one. So from Elena, hello, sorry I cannot attend today this lesson, but I'll watch the recording. How to pronounce at. For example, how should I say to anyone, find me on Instagram at Elena? We usually just say at. I believe 50 years ago, it was the each at sign, but now we just call it the at sign. And we don't always say it. You could just say your Instagram handle without the at, but that would certainly work. It's at ENG Bob the Canadian on Instagram is my Instagram. I don't put much on there anymore though. From Christian. What season is it for you, Teacher Bob? It is fall, also called autumn. As you can see outside, we call it fall, I think, because the leaves fall off a lot of the trees. So that is starting to happen. So it is the season of fall. I think we are we halfway through? Yeah, because winter starts the third week of December. So we are in the middle of fall, early fall. Hey Bob, I live in Canada, city side, but I love and want to move to the countryside. Can you tell me any pros or cons? The countryside is peaceful. The countryside is quiet. The countryside has a lot of fresh air, and it's really nice because you don't hear or have neighbors who live close by. So if you like all those things, those are the pros. The cons of the countryside: you can't get pizza delivered. You have to have your own water supply. You have to have your own sewage treatment system because you can't connect to city water or city sewage. You don't have any conveniences close by. If you want a chocolate bar, you have to drive several kilometers to get a chocolate bar. The pros and cons of the city, I would just say the city is convenient. Everything is there. Like for Jen and I to go to the gym, we have to drive for 25 minutes. If I lived in the city, I could just go there really, really quickly. In the chat, Mode says, I think ChatGPT is really useful in conversational English, but if you ask it about the English language, it might just be as good as any dictionary, which is not always representative of real life English. Yeah, I sometimes wonder where ChatGPT got all its knowledge from, because sometimes it's dead on. When you say something is dead on, it means the answer is perfect. But every once in a while, it gives kind of a strange answer, I've noticed. Freddie Wolf says, "You're welcome, Bob." Where'd that go? "It's a pleasure to be your channel member for sure. Un grand merci à toi d'exister." Pas de problème. Ready to fall back tomorrow? Yes. In English, when we change time, we spring ahead. We move our clocks ahead an hour. And in the fall, we fall back an hour. That's how we remember. Okay, next question. Bobby's fan. Most common lunch menu in Ontario. I think if you're talking about an item, I would say there's a few things that are very common. One would be, if I look at what my students buy when they go to town, they will buy a slice of pizza, they will buy a burger, they will buy a sub sandwich, a submarine sandwich, which is a long piece of bread with lots of meats and cheeses on it. I would say that's very common. If you go to a restaurant and sit down to eat, you might get a club sandwich, which is bread with meat and cheese on it and lettuce as well. But I would say in terms of what my students buy, it's mostly pizza. They'll go and get a slice of pizza. From Lena, "Hello, sir. How can I improve grammar and vocabulary?" So there's two approaches. Oh, there goes Walter. Let's get him a little bit bigger here. Oh, and there goes Jen. So there's two approaches. One is to do it passively. So that means you're going to do a lot of reading and a lot of listening, and you're going to hope that you remember and absorb what you're hearing. And then you can also do it actively. This means you intentionally study grammar and you intentionally make flashcards or use an app to learn vocabulary. And I think you should do both. I think a lot of listening and reading is really good for you, but I do think you should actively learn as well. Buy a book in your own language about English grammar, and certainly find a few different apps to use or use flashcards to learn vocabulary, but then back that up with lots of listening as well. Let's see here. Oh, from Unso. "Have you ever mentioned your older brother?" I might have just missed it. Only if you'd like to share. Thanks. I think so. I talk more about my younger brother every once in a while because I would like my younger brother to come on a live stream someday because he actually looks like me. In fact, my younger brother was at a work meeting and they were meeting a team of people from another country. And one of the people on the team said to him, "Do you know Bob the Canadian? Because you look like him and you sound like him." So anyways, that's my younger brother. My older brother, I don't talk about a lot, maybe because he lives further away. He's an awesome guy. He was originally an auto mechanic, and then he went back to school and retrained to become a database programmer or a computer programmer. So he has two careers. So he's a very handy guy. I think I mentioned that yesterday. A very handy guy. Let's see here. From Ismail, "Hi Bob, can I use mental health instead of mental well-being when I mean things like inner peace or feeling good, or does it change the meaning? Thanks." So mental health has become a more official sounding term. Like at school, we have training on how to recognize and interact with students who have mental health problems or challenges. Mental well-being is more of a, I think, general term. It's good to have good mental well-being. It's good to have good physical fitness. So I would say it's on that level of definition. But mental health is a more formal term now for the struggles that especially young people go through. The gift membershiping is continuing. From Brent. Hi, Brent. I sent one gift membership to Alessandro. Very nice. So Brent, I'm not sure if you just popped in, but people were asking about the rules of baseball. And I mentioned that was on our to-do list. If I had come to visit you last summer, we were going to try and do a lesson on the rules of baseball. Maybe this winter, we should remotely still even though it'll be the off season. Maybe we should attempt that at some point. Mr. Fischeri, speaking of Canada, I recently heard about Beaver Tails, which is a Canadian food chain and food pastry. Haha. Yes, so every part of the world has some kind of fried dough. And in Canada, we call them beaver tails, deep fried dough. So I think in some places it's called an elephant ear. In some places, I think in Holland, it's more of a ball and it's called oliebollen. In Canada, it's flat and we deep fry the dough and it's called a beaver tail. So very, very fun. Brent says he just popped in. Well, it's good to see you, man. Let's see here. So Osvaldo, Bob, I was in Seattle once and I overheard a lady say in a rather rude way that they didn't accept Canadian dollars there because we were in the United States. So I'll say two things about that. Number one, in Canada, you can probably use American dollars almost anywhere, but you're going to get ripped off because we usually accept American money at par. So right now, I think the Canadian dollar versus US. So a Canadian dollar is only worth 70 cents. So in Canada, we like to accept American money at par. That means you'll be paying 30 cents more for whatever you're buying, and we'll happily take your US dollars. The inverse of accepting Canadian money isn't always true. Although if you are in a US town that's close to the border, you're probably more likely going to be able to use Canadian money. All that being said, people don't really use cash that much anymore. It's usually just their phone or their card. So Brent says, that'd be fun. Let's go Blue Jays. Yes, it would be fun. So yes, and I think this is true around the world as well. The US dollar is widely accepted around the world, but your local country's money might not be accepted. Osvaldo, is there a certain hostility between Native Americans and Canadians? I love them both. So it depends what you are saying here. If you are saying, is there hostility between Americans and Canadians? I would say the last year has been a little bit weird. Like all of the Americans I know, I have relatives and friends in the States. Our relationship has not changed. But in the business world and at the levels of government, there has been some animosity. I don't know if you know that word. It means things aren't all happy at that level. Now, are you talking about hostility between... So the term Native Americans can also mean people who are indigenous to the Americas. So that's a whole different question that you might be asking. I think you're asking about, are Canadians and Americans getting along right now? The people are. Our governments are having strong language discussions about trade mostly. So that's how I would say it. Like, I'm not going to kick Brent out of the chat because he's American, because I like Brent. And even though our governments are maybe having trouble coming to certain agreements on trade, it doesn't mean that I'm annoyed with all Americans. And I actually have relatives in Michigan as well. So Brent says, growing up near the Canadian border, I saw tons of Canadian coins all the time. They spent the same, don't see many now. That's true. Our coins are all the same size. So you used to be able to use like Canadian coins in American vending machines. If you don't know what a vending machine is, it looks like this. See, I have slides ready for anything. Where am I looking here? Questions outside. Okay, I'm getting a little off topic. I got a bunch of questions to finish here. From Chris, hi Bob, do native English speakers still use idioms like it's raining cats and dogs now? And what exactly does it mean? Thank you, Bob. We know what it means. I haven't actually used that phrase for a very long time. If I do use it, I'm just trying to be funny. The phrase I hear the most is it's pouring outside or it's really coming down out there. So I think I said, oh, it's raining cats and dogs once, but to me, this sounds like something my grandma would say. And I don't know if I've heard like a high school student say it's raining cats and dogs. I have heard them say, wow, it's really coming down out there, or wow, it's pouring rain. They do teach this phrase though still, because you should know it. And no one's going to look at you funny if you say it, and they will understand you. I just don't think it's that common. From Unsel, I remember Mrs. Jen mentioning she bought some new saplings to plant. I was curious, did she ever get a chance to put them in the ground? Thanks. Yes, I think in her last video, you can actually see her planting trees out in the field from last week. Bob is always quick on the trigger with the slides. Yes, but I don't have a slide of a trigger right now to show that. Let's see. A certain Canadian former prime minister, says Hafiez, are friends with certain American pop star. No hostilities there. No, except that Canada, a lot of Canadians aren't super happy with Monsieur Trudeau. They feel like when he was in power, that certain things could have gone better. From Christian, daylight savings time, I think is what I say. It's daylight savings time. So the first one, what is the correct one though? Daylight savings time. Daylight saving time. Daylight saving time. Have I been saying it wrong my whole life? Daylight saving time. Okay, so the second one is correct. The first one is what Bob says and what Bob hears everyone around him saying. So I have never heard someone say daylight saving time. I've always heard daylight savings time. I have to research that one a bit. So yeah, I guess I shouldn't be teaching English. I've been saying something wrong my whole life. Liz, hi Bob, did you study grammar when you were a child, and how did you study English grammar? Thanks, Bob. So first of all, let's remember I am a native English speaker. So most of the grammar that I know, I learned naturally as a child, but we do in our schools teach grammar. Like I learned what a noun was. I learned what a verb was. I learned prepositions and objects and pronouns and all of those things, the parts of speech. We also learned how to form questions. So as much as in spoken English, you naturally understand the grammar rules, you also in school do study the grammar. Brent says, I say it wrong too. Yeah, Mode says no S's, I think. Well, you know what? That's just the way it's going to be said now. Daylight savings time from Esan. I can't learn English well, so there's a few things you can do here, Esan, to make that go better. One, not just look at the trees. Number one, look at how you are learning English and change some of the aspects of how you're learning English. So the number one thing would be, maybe you're not spending enough time. Maybe you're spending 10 minutes a day. I don't know. Maybe you're spending more. Maybe you need to increase the amount of time to 30 minutes or an hour a day. Maybe you're trying to study parts of the English language that are too hard. And maybe if you can find an English tutor, they can find the right level for you to start at. Maybe as well, you don't have a good foundation. I highly recommend that you just, in English, we say you need to brute force learn 500 to 1,000 common English words. Like you just need to memorize them so that you have a base level to get started. But yeah, you're not alone. Learning a language is very, very difficult. But I would say stick with it. That's the best advice I can give. From Alex, hi Bob, how do you think the final game between the Blue Jays, a little fix there, versus Dodgers tonight? How do I think it will go? I'm kind of scared because I thought last night we needed to win it last night. So in sports, there's something called momentum. And I feel like the Blue Jays came into the game with momentum. They had just won 2 games in a row. Mentally, they probably felt amazing. And then when they lost, I feel like the momentum shifted to the Dodgers now. Anyone else in the chat, I don't know if Brent's following baseball, but that's how I felt last night as a fan. And I hope the players don't feel that as well. So a couple phrases here. The Blue Jays are going to need to dig deep. They're going to need to really man up. That's another phrase. It's do or die today. When you say something's do or die, it's like they need to win. Otherwise, it's over. It's do or die. So a few English phrases for you there. Alessandro, when must I use the ing form like a noun? I can't answer this one because I'm not an expert on it, but I could do a lesson someday about that. Maybe I'll write it down as a Friday lesson idea. Yeah, English grammar is a little bit tricky. I'm sure a few people in the chat will give you some examples. Banana. My favorite fruit is a banana. I still eat one almost every day. I probably eat 5 or 6 bananas a week because I just really, really like them. So again, all of you who live in countries that grow bananas, especially the countries that send bananas to Canada, thank you so much for the bananas. I really, really appreciate it. Renata, do you and Jen celebrate Halloween? How did you celebrate it this year? Our kids are all older now, so we only give out candy. So we have some candy, and because we live out in the country, last night no one stopped in for Halloween. So now we have a bowl of chocolate that we get to eat later. Let's see here. From Tom, this is a great question. Hi, Bob. How can I tell if idioms and slang in shows like Friends or other American movies and sitcoms are old-fashioned, or if young native speakers still use them today? So here's what I will say. You need to learn idioms of all types from all eras so that you understand them. You do not need to use idioms for someone to understand when you speak English. And so what you can do is learn them so that you understand them when you hear them. And then you can start to get a sense of which ones you're hearing in daily conversation and then naturally start using them. Again, you can go for a whole week speaking English, never using a single idiom, and people will fully understand you and they will not know that you are learning English. I know native English speakers that rarely use idioms. So learn them so you understand them. And then as you go through your day, if you hear someone use one, maybe make a note later and say, okay, this one must still be current. And I usually give the same advice for other things too. Like we have idioms and sayings and even phrasal verbs. You don't need to use phrasal verbs initially when you're speaking, but you need to understand them to understand English. Brent says, I'm glad the Jays get to play at home. I wish I was there. I tried to buy tickets, but by the time I got through the queue, I was like, they were like $2,400 each or something. Michelle. Hello, Bob. Are American and Canadian cultures different or the same? So one of the things that is not always apparent to people from the rest of the world, so people who are not Canadian or American, is the sheer size of the United States and the sheer size of Canada. The United States in itself, there is a variety of cultures. So the culture of the Midwest versus the South versus the Northeast versus California or the West Coast. There are minor variations in American culture. And also in Canada, there are minor variations. As a whole, though, if you look at Canadians and English-speaking Canadians and English-speaking Americans, we are similar enough that we seem probably like the same culture to people from other parts of the world. If Brent and I were in an airport in Brussels and you came up and didn't know us and started talking to us, it would be hard for you to figure out which of us was Canadian, which was American, partly because Brent's from the Northeast of the United States, so he is closer to Canada. But I would say, yes, big countries, a lot of variation in culture within, but still very, very similar. Very similar. I also think, this is just my theory, but I think there's like a neutral kind of English that North Americans sometimes default to. Like if I met someone from California, we would both speak in a way where we knew we would understand each other. Like I would be a little less Canadian. I think it's like a natural phenomenon. That's just my theory. I don't know if it's true. From William, I am an English teacher as well, and after I started watching your videos, I don't worry about preparing my classes so much. Your videos have helped me a lot. That's awesome. I'm glad I am able to help you. I know someone once said I should start a YouTube channel teaching teachers how to teach. I'm not going to do that, but that might be something I do in retirement. I, as you know, start too many new things and then I can't keep up with them. In the chat, no, that says, even though you no longer go trick-or-treating on Halloween, do you still decorate your house, Bob? No. There's a bowl of chocolate bars by the front door. That's it. And then Brent says, I'll be in Montreal later this month for Paul McCartney. Oh, that's very cool. So Montreal is known as a metropolitan city. It's like a very multicultural metropolitan city. You'll have to look that word up. From Mike. Hi, Bob. To understand a character's meaning in American sitcoms, do we have to understand American culture? Thanks, Bob. It depends on the sitcom, but there is some truth to that. If there is a character in a sitcom, for instance, I think it was called King of Queens, and he drove a UPS truck. So he was a delivery driver for a company called UPS, United Parcel Service, I think. So he wore a brown outfit and he drove a brown truck. And I know UPS is probably an international company, but in order to understand parts of that character, you had to understand his job in American society. There was another show called, I can't remember the name of the show. It was a show about a guy who had a home improvement show. And the show is called Home Improvement. There we go. I remembered it. And so you would have to understand that in North America, there's a TV channel where you can watch shows where they do home improvements. And so, yes, sometimes, but I would say it's probably pretty easy to understand things pretty quickly, for sure. If you watch an old show like Happy Days from like the 70s, you would have to know a little bit about American culture and history to understand what's going on there. But I think if you watch a show like Friends, even though it's old, you probably would understand it. Hasham, do you have an interest in international politics? So my dream job is that someday the Prime Minister of Canada calls and says, we need a new ambassador to France. Would you be the Canadian ambassador to France? And I would say, absolutely, send us over. I don't know if Jen would want to go. So do I have an interest in international politics? Maybe. This will never happen, but I would be an ambassador. That would be fun. Freddie Wolf says, Brett, if you need some French lessons for the trip to Montreal, let me know. Or Montreal. Let's see. I don't know this word. Let me look this up for a sec before I go on screen with it. Oh, I think it's just Halloween. I'll just say, Mikalo, I don't know. You take care too. There, that's my answer to that question. From Alessandro. Hi, Bob. I hope you're doing very well. Could you explain to me how to use the passive, please? Not in this live stream. I will teach it wrong and I will make a mistake. Using the passive voice in English. Let me get an example. Let's see here. Move the object, add to be. The construction company built my house in 1998. Passive. My house was built by the construction company in 1988. Active. Jack Smith wrote the novel in 1912. Passive. The novel was written by Jack Smith in 1912. I'll have to do a full lesson on that someday. But for now, I'm going to move on. Rossi, hi, Mr. Bob. I like to see only your short videos. Thanks for your videos I liked. Well, thank you for liking the videos. Second last question. Hamid, what is the most important thing in your life? Your job or your free time? My family. Yeah. If I had to choose between those two, though, I know, like I need a job. Like free time is more fun, but free time doesn't pay the bills. That's how I would answer that one. Let's see here. And here we go. Last question from John. Hi, Bob. How do I know what my language level is? I'm self-teaching and I understand speech, but my speaking is poor. I want to go through the grammar again. I honestly think the only way to know your language level is to book a test and take a test. It's going to cost money. When I was improving my French, I just really enjoyed. It was $70. I went to Alliance Française. I took a test. I passed my B1. A year later, I passed my B2. I just think taking a test, it's great. You get all these numbers and they give you a score for your reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And it's just very, very, very nice. So that's what I would say is the best way. From Freddie, last question for real now. Bob, when you speak French, do you struggle with the faux amis? Yes. The same words don't mean the same thing in each language. For instance, eventually and éventuellement. Yes, I do struggle with that. There is one in particular. Is it sensible? I forget. There is one in particular that it's a totally different meaning in English. And that is, I think, a little challenging when you're learning a language. Mr. Fischieri, Hafia says, kid kicked the ball. The ball was kicked by the kid. Yeah, why do we do that in English? I don't know. The leaves fell from the tree. The tree dropped the... No, I'm doing it wrong now. See, that's why I should never teach live. I'm going to wrap this up, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. It is 10 after 11. We've been here for a bit. A few things you should know before you go. There will be a lesson tomorrow on handy machines coming out. It'll be a short version of the lesson from yesterday. It's great to listen to something again. This lesson will be available to listen to again if you want as well. I'm just going to say bye to everyone in the chat, and I'm going to hit the end button because I think I've talked for too long. Noah that says, thanks for the awesome Q&A lesson and your time, Bob. No problem. I wish you and your family a wonderful Saturday and Sunday. Take care of yourself. I will. Unsel says, thanks a lot for the live session, teacher. As always, you shared priceless knowledge and energy. I benefited a great deal from it. Take care of yourself. Have a great weekend with your loved ones. Bye. You as well. Sophia says, thank you, Bob, for the interesting lesson. It was useful and the view was so beautiful. Fall, autumn is amazing color time. It definitely is. Hafia says, sunny day today. Thank you, Bob. Nice to see everyone. Okay. Bye to Ewan, Mr. Fischieri, Sophia, Know That, Mode Eggs, Mikhailo, Kolia, and everyone else who is here. I am going to hit the outro button and I'm going to head out. Pedro says, thanks again for your great lesson and for showing us the extra image. Now we know you inside and out. Have a wonderful weekend. Yes, you too. Okay, before I lose my voice, I'm going to go fix a light switch. Wish me luck.